Hello, y'all. Hello. Good evening, and welcome to Faith and Politics with me, EILEEN. We are here on Tuesday, November 18th, 2025 at 6 p.m. in New Orleans, Louisiana. So welcome to Faith and Politics with me, EILEEN. I am really excited about today's show. Welcome, everybody. I see everybody popping on. We are live again on Instagram, TikTok, Podbean, and YouTube. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Faith and Politics with me, EILEEN. I believe I have a great show for you today, but of course, you're going to tell me if it is and what you're thinking about it. But before we jump into what's on the agenda today, I just want to give a shout out to Harrell 12U, who are the city champions. And if y'all don't know, I am from Uptown. We spent about 7 years at Harrell Park. So Harrell has my heart. I do some volunteer work over there, and I work with the Don't Stop Dreaming summer camp over there as well. So I just shout out to Harrell U and my kids, my children, who won the city championship in 12U. So shout out to them and all the hardworking coaches from 12U all the way down. We love you and we appreciate you, and thank you for representing Uptown the way that you did. So gave everybody a little bit of time to jump on, but my name is EILEEN Carter. We are here on Faith and Politics. Today is episode 36. Let me tell you what we're going to be talking about real quick. We are, I'm going to give you an update on how you can get in touch with me, because y'all, we are growing and I'm really kind of excited about it. We also are going to get into dust your feet season. The Lord has let go of the people who he told you to let go of. He's been telling you all year, probably for about a couple years, and he said, this person is not good for you. It may even be a family member or, when a friend. He's like, I want to move you to the next level. They can't come. So it is dust your feet season. It's also take back the block. The Lord has put this on my heart. If you've been watching and following me, I've been walking the neighborhoods and standing in my authority, and he really wanted me to grow that. So we're going to get into that. Also, we're going to get into the election results. I'll be really quick about that, but New Orleans just had their final general election, and for the runoffs and things of that nature. So I'll give you what happened. Y'all, we only had about 21% turnout, and we'll get into that. And then we're going to get into what's in the news. We're going to have two updates there. The New Orleans budget deficit crisis. I'm going to give you an update because we always need one of those, because there's something happening new every single week. And also the Archdiocese of New Orleans is, their bankruptcy. So we're going to give you an update on that as well, because they are now in court having hearings. So I'll let you know what's going on with that. We're going to have a little Civics 101. I'm going to break down federal, state, and local and the differences between those. And I'm going to get this information straight out of my book, which is Faith and Politics. And of course, that's what this podcast is based upon. We go a little bit into more fun things with the podcast, but it is all based off of this book. If you don't know, my son and I were in a drive-by shooting, over 40 shots. And so I was like, okay, Lord, what do you want me to do? And he said, write the book. So I wrote the book, Faith and Politics. It is to, educate our community. I did grow up in politics. It was just kind of was what it was. My dad was an elected official, and then my family members became elected officials too. So I was just around it, so I knew it. And I thought that, kind of everybody knew this stuff, but what I figured out that everybody does not know this stuff. So I put a little guide together with resources and even how to do business. So there's some fun stuff in here. I encourage you to get the book. The book is only $15. If you want to meet us at the meetups in New Orleans and purchase the book from me, you can do that at Cash App. It is Faith in Politics Cash App. It's really easy. Or if you want to buy it on Amazon, it is there too. And if you do not have a $15, you can get the PDF for free. I'm trying to give the information away. You can get the PDF for free on IG. You can just go in the bio links and it's right there, PDF for free. Hit the button and you can download it yourself, and you can share it with your family members. I don't care. Share it all over the world. Everybody needs this information so that we can be a stronger New Orleans. Because when we know the rules to the game, we can play better. And, our politicians know the rules to the game. So we need to catch up so we can work our city the way that we need to be done. And last but not least, we'll have a resident question and New Orleans trivia. So I have a fun show for you, and I think you're going to enjoy it. But first things first, Faith and Politics today, Empowering New Orleans. Again, like I said, based off of the book. If you didn't know, I did radio from 2013 to 2017, and then I built the social media department for New Orleans. So I'm kind of back at what I love to do, which is giving information and really being in the neighborhoods and talking to people. If you want to email me or get in touch with me, you can do that at faithinpolitics504 faithinpolitics504@gmail.com. That is faithinpolitics504@gmail.com. You can also give me a call at 504-434-2827. That is 504-434-2827. That's so crazy because I felt like the radio was coming back. I don't know if y'all heard it, but I was like, okay, Eileen. You can listen anytime if you ever miss a show. You can always download the Podbean app, and that's where we're live right now. So, hey, Podbean, thank you for downloading it there. But if you miss a show, you can always catch us at Apple, YouTube, Spotify. But we're also live on YouTube, too. So if you are a YouTuber, you can watch us live there, too. But you can listen anytime at Apple, YouTube, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Music, Podbean, Player FM, Listen Notes, Podchaser, and Boomplay. So we are everywhere that you can think of being, and I just wanted to make it easily and readily available for each and every one of you. So if you are interested in partnering with us or sponsoring, because I did have somebody who wanted to sponsor a book for somebody, they sent a donation, and so I was like, well, let's sponsor books and do some giveaways. So if you're interested in a giveaway, we will we'll promote your business, or if you don't want to say anything about it, then we don't have to do that as well. But we want to make sure we give away this information so that everybody can get it. So if you want to give a donation, or if you want to purchase a book, you can do that at Cash App, and we have meetups throughout the city, and we can chat a little bit about the New Orleans, and I drop some spiritual knowledge too, because I do walk with the Lord, so we can have a prophetic conversation if you're interested in that as well. So again, you can purchase the book at Faith in Politics on Cash App. And people are like, well, what do you do for a living? Well, I have a business. It is Carter Business Development, where I do strategic development, and I do a lot of one-on-one things. And so I like to really form the needs to the client. So I do strategic plans, brands and rebrands, civic engagement initiatives, launching outreach, things of that nature, building communication, engagement campaigns. And of course, I have my own podcast, book, but I do mock elections with the book, Faith in Politics, so that our youth can really understand what's going on. And I really kind of want to grow that too, because we did some this summer with the kids and they really enjoyed it. So mock elections and civic workshops and seminars. So if you have an organization or a group, get with me at faithinpolitics504@gmail.com. That is my email. And then let's work some magic together here for New Orleans. Okay, so let's jump. Now that we've got all that done, let's jump into what we got going on, y'all, because it is nuts around New Orleans. It is nuts. And I didn't have I have a prophetic word from the other day. So if you don't follow me, I really, oh, Jesus, help me with this. The Lord gave me a prophetic word. It was about dusting your feet. And I had a burden. I'm not kidding, like a burden about families. The Lord. So everybody thinks like, you're going to love your family forever. Everybody's just, you're going to have everybody get along and this, that, and the other. That is absolutely a lie from the pit of hell. Like, that is not what goes down. That is not what happens. If you read your Bible, it literally says that the Lord will have, mother go against daughter and son and father and in-laws and stuff. Like, he's like, that is not how it's going down. I'm coming back to separate. And so we have a lot of generational curses and nobody talks about it, and they like to just keep it hidden. And so 'tis the season that the Lord is like, y'all thought this was, you thought it was a joke. Well, it's not. And family truths and friends are going to be coming out right now. They probably have already started, honestly, because this was a couple days ago. So this has already started, but you've seen a trickle of it, but you're going to see a lot more. And the Lord says, dust your feet. I've shown you a lot of these people, and it's time to let it go. And if you don't let it go, you're either going to get hurt in the process of the separation that he's going to create, or you're going to get stuck in your past season and you're not going to move forward. So we need you to open your minds and to move forward, especially if you do walk with the Lord, and or if you get that little urge or that you're like, what is that? Your intuition. Well, that's the Holy Spirit telling you to get your mind right. And so the prophetic word where family members are often our first abusers. And that's the truth. Family members are often our first abusers. And, I am not isolated from that. We stay quiet to keep the family together, but that is not biblical or healthy. It's actually demonic. The Lord is revealing family secrets and setting the captives free from manipulation, control, and intimidation. Why do people defend the abusers instead of protecting the victims of the abuse from children to adulthood? The Lord is righting wrong and reestablishing his order. And many will not like how he does it. And our opinions do not matter. He's saying, speak up to save souls, because this isn't about your opinions. This is about where you're gonna dwell for eternity. So you want to like be uncomfortable for a little while here. You want to be uncomfortable for eternity. Make that decision. And I'll give you biblical reference for this. In Matthew 10:36, it says, a man's enemy will be the members of his own household. Jeremiah 12:6 says, your relatives, members of your own family, even they have betrayed you. They have raised a loud cry against you. Do not trust them, though they speak well of you. They're going to speak all nice in your face and be slashing you in the back. You can be like, oh, what are all these knives in my back? It's your family, and it's the craziest thing. And a lot of us, you think it's normal because you're around them until you kind of get out in the workplace or things like that. You're like, wait, this is not normal to be treated that way. No, it's not normal. They gaslight you, and it is unfortunate. But they weren't there for the call when, the Lord put that idea in you. When you say, oh, I want to start this business. And then generally if your family or people close to you, like, oh, you can't do that. Oh, that's not a good idea. Or I don't know why you think you can do that. Well, guess what? Stop having the conversation with everybody. The Lord put that blueprint on your heart, and it's time to go. Unfortunately, our family members are generally our first abusers, and it's biblical reference to say that, to prove that. And Mark 6:4, Jesus said to them, a prophet is not without honor except in his own town, among his relatives, and in his own home. So if you have a prophetic voice, guess what? They're not going to believe you. They're not going to believe you, and it's okay. Dust your feet and keep it moving. They were not called for the conference call. In Romans 16:17, it says, I urge you, brothers and sisters, to watch out for those who cause divisions and put obstacles in your way that are contrary to the teaching you have learned. Keep away from them. So you're on a mission and somebody's trying to deter you. The Lord said, keep away from them. Move. And so it's just that time. It is dust your feet season. He is a clarion call to say, hey, and this is really like a last call, y'all, because he has been telling us this for years. And the Lord is saying, let them go. I mean, like, to the point where people are going to get hurt if you don't let them go. I mean, like, I don't even want to talk about it, but calamities, I'll put that in the nicest way I can say. You will have calamities in your life until you let them go, if that's what the Lord has said. And finally, Proverbs 6:16-19 says, there are 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush into evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who stirs up conflict in the community. So we can see how a lot of those things relate to family matters, and God's like, I'm not here for it. That is not what I created. And so if your family is out of order, the Lord is here to get them back in order. So that was the prophetic word from the Lord. It is dust your feet season. So I encourage you to dust your feet. I know it's not always easy, but if you want something different, you got to do something different, and you can't have the haters around you. And unfortunately, a lot of times it is close family members or cousins or things of that nature that you grew up, and you just cannot imagine that they would do it to you until you find out and it smacks in your face. You're like, oh, and then you have this cognitive dissonance moment, like, my family member did that to me. Yeah, they did. And guess what? They don't even feel bad about it. They're at home like eating a sandwich, and you're at home crying, totally 2 different situations. So I encourage you to walk it out with faith, take it to the Lord. He will walk you through your healing. And so you can rebuild your faith and move forward in whatever your calling is, because it's time to dust your feet. Now, what the Lord has given me, and I'm really excited about it, because if you have been seeing me walk around in a lot of my videos, you're like, what is she doing walking all over? Well, this was the Lord's idea. And let me tell you how I know that it works. So long story short, I am challenging New Orleans, and it is called Take Back the Block. Walk with me. Take back the block. We are having a spiritual takeover of New Orleans. If we all go take back our blocks and walk our blocks, how quickly we can see changes in New Orleans. Well, that is the challenge I am throwing out there to each and every one of the listeners. And we're really going to grow this, and I'm excited just because I put out a post the last couple of days about it. It's just kind of the Lord's kind of been building the blueprint. And so I've been posting every time I get a little bit more information. And so I'm creating a working platform right now with, how I want it to grow. I'm looking for, some neighborhood, I will be looking for some neighborhood captains to maybe organize events in their areas, as well as, you can just be someone who wants to walk your individual block. Wonderful. But they may have somebody who is interested in doing some more neighborly activities. Well, I'm looking for you too. We'll have different levels to this, so nobody feels like, you're in this by yourself. As well as I'm looking to do like some block parties as well, where we, really get out and walk the neighborhood. So if you know of a neighborhood that had a lot of, honestly, death or fear or incidents or crime or things of that nature, let us know. We want to, come take over the neighborhood. We want to talk to the residents, and we want to pray. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to stand 10 toes down for the Lord. He said, wherever our souls tread, it is established for us. And so we are going to stand on the word. The Lord does not lie. And so I'll give you an example that there were car break-ins. Remember when there were all the car break-ins in the city of New Orleans, and it was really going like amok, and it was just nuts. And so my neighborhood, wasn't spared. I'm not going to give whose car, but it was the neighbor's car and family members' cars who were like broken in like 3 times. And I was like, this is not normal. 3 times? It was just ridiculous. And I'm like, what is the deal, God? And he's like, you have spiritual authority, so until you stop it. And I was like, bet. And so he was like, and he gave me instructions. He's like, walk your block. So I started walking my block and just praying. And I am not kidding. We have not had another car break in, and that has been for a couple years now. And so I told my neighbor I did it, and they were just so excited, like, yeah, you keep doing that. And so I 100% know that this worked because I've done it. And so we want to just take back every block and establish it for the Lord and for the residents of New Orleans. So we're going to take back the block spiritually. So the clarion call to New Orleans is to take back the block, to walk with me. If you want peace in our city, we must declare it, pray it, and walk it out. So the challenge is walk your block regularly, intentionally. If you exercise, we want you to run with purpose, and wherever your feet tread, take authority as you run. If you walk in City Park, if you walk in Audubon Park, if you walk by the lake, wherever you walk, if you walk up and down St. Charles, up and down Claiborne, wherever you walk across the city, in the east, if you're walking in Joe Brown Park, wherever, if you're in Lower 9 and wherever you are, if you are working out, we want you to take the word with you. If you don't if you're like, oh, you're kind of uncomfortable about prayer, guess what? Pray the Our Father. It is the perfect prayer, because the Lord, guess what? He gave that one to us in the Bible. So if you're not, aware of fully comfortable with warfare prayers, or if you don't speak in tongues yet, well, guess what? You can pray for that too and ask the Lord to give you your tongues. But if you don't have that yet, just pray the Our Father and take authority, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to take back our block, and we are going to have a spiritual takeover of New Orleans, because that's what it's going to take. The crime isn't going to change. The fear isn't going to change. People have been like locked in their house for all these years. Remember when we were number 1 in the country for murder, and people were going inside their houses, and you see people kind of getting out a little bit, but they just had New Orleans as one of the deadliest cities in the country. And so we don't want those titles. We don't. We are known for voodoo and witchcraft, but we can be known for other things as well. And so we can have a revival right here in New Orleans. They've been having it across the country, so why can't we have ours? So if we start it now, the remnant rises up, and we can take back our block. So if you do follow me, I did walk over to A.L. Davis Park. I did grow up uptown, so that's part of what I know. And so I was like, they've had a lot of deaths and things that go on under that basketball court, and I was just like, no more. We're like not doing this. So if it takes me to go pray under this basketball court in this park regularly, well, then that's just what I'm going to do, and we're going to take it back, because we're just not going to accept this anymore. Because why should we? The Lord has given us authority. I walk in my authority, and I walk it out. So I'm going to hopefully encourage you, so you know whose you are and the power that you have, and we're going to all use it accordingly. So again, I am asking each and every one of you, so when you walk, exercise, pray for peace, healing, and protection, speak to your neighbors. When I walk around, I say good morning and be blessed to everyone. Some people are like, what? And you can see the countenance of people's like face change, because they do not expect that. So it's really fun to watch and see people's, you can change somebody's day with an interaction. So hopefully I've changed, a couple people's day with the interactions that I've had these last couple of days when I have been walking. And so if you're going outside to, take the dog out for a walk, or I'm encouraging you to play with your children, walk to the library, the bus stop, or wherever, use your 2 feet and start walking it out and claim spiritual and physical territory with your presence. So our mission, this is Faith in Politics, but this initiative will have nothing to do with politics. So I am looking for different partners. I'm talking to people now, so I'm really encouraged about it. But this spiritual takeover will not be political. This will be totally, kingdom driven. So if you have an organization that, you're like, but I can't work with politics, this will not have anything to do with politics. This is all faith driven, because we're going to change our city, and we're going to do one block at a time. And so there's a call to action. So if you're ready, I want you to either comment or hear, or actually send me a DM or send me an email at faithinpolitics504@gmail.com. If there's an area of the city where you're like, there's crime ridden, or there's a lot of death, or anything like that, let us know. We will have a meetup there. We will walk the block, and we want to change things together. So let us know if there are any hot spots around the city so we can start taking them back. So that's what I need y'all to do. And like Isaiah 58:1, it says, cry aloud, do not hold back, lift up your voice like a trumpet. So we're going to do that, and we're going to take the block back. So that's what the spiritual takeover is all about. So I hope you join me, partner with me, or just start in your own neighborhood as well. And, take pictures or do a little video and, tag us and let us know so we can share it as well. And let us know that you all are taking back your block. So next up, y'all, we have a brand new council. So we know the last 2 members now. And then we have a brand new clerk of criminal court. His name is Calvin Duncan. As you know, he was wrongly convicted. He was in Angola for years. And look at the turnaround. God will take the last shall be first, right? That's the season. And so the Lord is setting the captives free and taking over and preparing a table in front of your enemies. If that's not the full testimony of that, then I don't know what is. And so shout out to Calvin Duncan for his win. We also want to congratulate Amy McCarran. She won Council District A. And Jason Hughes, y'all, he won Council District E. So shout out to them. Proposition 1, 2, and 3 were all yes. And you can catch all the election results in a post on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube as well. But the craziest part about the election was, guess what, y'all? About 21% of New Orleanians showed up to the voting poll. 21%. So that means 79% of the registered voters of the city of New Orleans did not vote. 79% of the registered voters of the city of New Orleans did not vote. So if you do not vote, your voice is not heard. And so I was actually, and shout out to this follower, this listener who commented, because I've been saying this, that the native New Orleanians are not voting. And you have a lot more, and I don't want to call them like newbies per se. I mean, I don't like to call them gentrifiers, because we're a gumbo, and so, we love people and we appreciate them coming to New Orleans. But, you can't dilute the culture here, because that's what literally people come from around the world for. They come for the natives. They come for what we represent as New Orleanians. Number one, we're always friendly. 2, our food and our music, right? And who delivers that? The natives. And unfortunately, the natives have not been showing up at the ballot box. And it is a real thing. And you can see it in a lot of our elections. And people are like, oh, well, why are these happening? Things happening is because the natives aren't showing up at the polls. And so that's a whole nother thing. That'll be the political side. I'm going to think about something there where maybe we can get an initiative to light a fire under us. But we really need to be engaged in our communities, not just for ourselves, but for our children. If we want to leave a city for them that has any reflection of the city of New Orleans. And while we appreciate everybody coming to New Orleans and helping us out, especially during Katrina and all of these hurricanes and disasters and things of that sort, we are New Orleanians, and that's what it is. And so we've had 2 administrations, a past administration for 8 years, and then this new administration that our city is going to be led by non-New Orleanians. And you can think that it doesn't make a difference, but it really does. So there's these little bitty incremental changes that you do not, think make a difference until you look 8 years later. So when the Mayor Cantrell started in 2018 compared to now, 2025 or 2026 when she leaves, there's a big difference in certain New Orleans cultural things. Just like, look at the difference between Claiborne Avenue and what's under there. That's just a small example of it. Look what's happening to the second line community and the policing. Those are just two small examples. But as native New Orleanians, when you do not have natives running the city, it really makes a difference, and you can see it. We have gotten a little too comfortable with letting other people lead us, and that is just not what's up. We need to stand in our, I don't know how I want to say this because I don't want to hurt the newbies' feelings. We love you, but you came here and you love New Orleans for us. That's what you came here and loved us for. And so we just need a more balanced voice in our government so that we can have the good life for everybody involved. And so I just want to encourage our natives to really get involved. Encourage your family and your friends to vote, because we need to vote consistently and we need to vote in blocks. And so you can really understand the importance of voting in the book. I give a history of the last 75 years of voting in the city of New Orleans. I give a breakdown of it and why it's so important. So as well as all the other stuff that's in here, it's a little bit of history of voting in the city of New Orleans. I like a little history. My dad was the first Black elected assessor in the state of Louisiana, and just things like that. We don't even know a lot of our New Orleans history, and so that's part of the reason why I do the trivia as well. But I think I'll do some trivia on some of our greats and some of our elected officials who really broke through barriers, because my dad that was 1984. So think about running for elected office in the city of New Orleans in 1984 as a Black official. Right. So I've seen a lot of stuff over the years, so it's been an interesting journey as a child of a politician, because my dad was an elected official from when I was 6 to 14. So yeah, it was a while. Lots of random things I know. So that's that. Let's jump into what's in the news. So if you're following New Orleans politics and New Orleans budget crisis, you know that we have $160 million deficit. And day to day, there's always something different, unfortunately and unfortunately. So I kind of want to let you know of what happened, because you know that we were short $125 million that they were asking for the state to approve the bonds. And so that approval went through. We have a lot of restrictions through that. I don't think you'll hear it on New Orleans news, but I do believe that the restrictions are due to the people who are walking us out of the crisis were actually there for the crisis. And, you will not hear some of our media say that, but it's the truth. They were there when this happened. And so you can play like you didn't know, but the job of the city council is oversight. That is literally one of their responsibilities per law. And you can also know that in here, because me just giving that little tidbit of information, people are like, I didn't know the city council was responsible for that. And I'm like, bingo. And they're not going to tell you that they're responsible for it either. Why would they tell you they're responsible for something that they missed? But there is checks and balances, right? So when one avenue of the government isn't working, one branch isn't working, the other side is supposed to, check them, checks and balances, and make sure that everything is working appropriately. So we already know what's going through with the mayor. We know we did the recall, right? And so there was already a light shown on the mayor not working. So if you know the mayor isn't working, you have a strained relationship, well, wouldn't you be paying more attention to the departments and make sure that they were working the way that they were supposed to be working? No, why would the city council do that? That would make too much sense. Well, they didn't. They dropped their own ball. So you had the mayor dropped the ball, the city council dropped the ball, and then we have a deficit. And so also, if you go into the last couple posts, I do have a breakdown of exactly what happened with the budget. I explained it on a past show, so that we're not going to go into that portion here, but you really need to catch up on that if you missed it. But today's budget update is that the budget that was there, they are totally nixing it. And Mayor-elect is like, we're going to start with a whole new budget. Now, here's the crazy part. I mean, it's a necessity, but the budget is due and needs to be finalized by December 1st. So what day are we on? November 18th. You got like 2 weeks to get the budget in. So it is a crunch. Everybody is running around and everybody is trying to do something different. So the mayor-elect takes lead on the 2026 municipal budget. For context, 1 week after securing a deal with state officials to keep New Orleans funded through the end of the year, the mayor-elect has taken control of drafting the 2026 budget. And like I said, the budget must be approved by December 1st. Now, why does this matter? It matters because the previous budget, that proposal included $200 million in cuts and was deemed unworkable. Because what the mayor did, our current mayor did, was she slashed everything like 30% across the board. She's like, across the board, this is how it's going to work. And so through the budget hearings, you saw that it would really cripple and eliminate certain departments because they just wouldn't have the funds to function. And so the new plan will require even deeper restrictions and reductions. Wait, did you catch that? Because that's important. So the new plan that the mayor-elect has to come up with will include deeper reductions than what the mayor already said was necessary. Now let that fall on you and take a moment, because now why is it going to be deeper? Guess why? Well, we have to repay the $125 million short-term loan that we just got so we could end this year. Life is funny. So, and we have to catch up on late vendor payments because they have been holding back money. Like, just an example, our trash, one of the waste companies, our sanitation companies, they weren't paid. I don't know if they're paid today, but they hadn't been paid for September as of a couple weeks ago. So they're holding on some of the payments just so they can, rob Peter to pay Paul right now. That's literally what the city of New Orleans is doing. They are robbing Peter to pay Paul. But they want you to be on point with all of your business and all of your fees and things. Never mind, let me be quiet. So anyway, going back to the business, the key priorities for the mayor-elect, this is what they said about, redoing the budget because the slashes are just going to be ridiculous. So they said their key priorities are public safety, essential services like sanitation, etc., and targeted cuts are around, they're looking for 20 to 30% across all departments, not like 30, so a little bit less. So there will be so we'll see where they're going to be doing the cutting. And they said that they were going to give us this information by December 1st. That's also in these next 2 weeks. And of course, they have to give it to us by December 1st because the budget's due. So you couldn't give it before us anyway. So don't feel like they're doing you something. They have to get the budget, the 2026 budget, finalized by December 1st. So that's when we'll get all this information. So the financial outlook for the city of New Orleans, the loan repayment in January will significantly reduce our spending power, or the spending power of the current administration. So as y'all know, I did run for mayor, and a lot of people ran for mayor. And I think everybody who ran for mayor is like, you know what? Bet, I'm glad you won. So, you know what? You can have it. So, sorry, wouldn't want to be you. That's kind of the situation where I'm looking at it now, because I'm like, And all the people there should have known. So they ran on platforms that they 100% could not deliver, which I'm like, how did you give us all the okie doke? Because remember, the legislative auditor came into the city of New Orleans in September. That's when they requested him. And he delivered the report a couple days after the election. So that's when we got the true update of what was going on in New Orleans. It was after the election, which I thought was just terrible. But anyway, it is what it is. New Orleans is under judgment and the cleanse is here. So financial outlook, the loan repayment in January will significantly reduce our spending power. The general fund projected is now at, let me start this. The general fund projected for last year, it was projected to be $725 million. It was projected to be $725 million, but now it is proposed to be $600 million. So of course that is that $125 million short. So the general fund projected for next year is only $600 million for the city. So digest that. And the transition team for the mayor-elect is meeting with every city department one-on-one to assess budgeting and staffing for each individual department. And it's so funny because I actually ran on that. And it's just crazy how the Lord works, because the plan I wrote was really, God gave me the blueprint, and everything that I kind of said they are having to do, which is so nuts, but just in a more critical fashion, to be perfectly honest. I do not wish to be her with the new information. I don't. Of course, we would have loved New Orleans and done whatever we needed to do. But when the Lord gives you Saul, he said, I'm going to give you a Saul. Y'all want a king? Okay, this isn't what I chose for you, but this is what you want? Okay, you got Saul. And guess what? You're going to be overtaxed, overworked, and your life is going to be miserable. And so guess what, New Orleans? she has already said that this digging out of this hole will be years. So it'll probably be her entire administration, at least these 4 years. So we shall see what that looks like. So city hiring, with this transition in government, you know that there's always new city hiring. So what she has done is she has basically said everyone has to reapply for their jobs. Everyone who is not under civil service. And so everybody has to, you don't know if you're going to have a job or not. It is real around City Hall right now. And so they have already put, shouts out for these different positions. So you know the people there will not be there next year. And when I tell you next year, we're talking about like January 12th. So we're talking about a month and a half. Like that's all you got left. And she's put you on notice that you will not be there because she's putting out applications for these positions. So I'm letting you know what they are. It is the CFO, the Chief Innovation Officer, the HR Director. She's looking for another Chief of Staff, of course. She's looking for Directors of Finance, Sanitation, Public Works, Parks and Parkways, Code Enforcement, Homeland Security, Safety and Permits, and Property Management. So those are the main ones that I caught that I thought y'all would be interested in. So if you know someone who is director level, let them know that this new administration is looking for applications. And again, I'll say it, the CFO, this Chief Innovation Officer, that is like IT, the HR Director, the Chief, of course, a Chief of Staff for herself, Directors of Finance, Sanitation, Public Works, Parks and Parkways, Code Enforcement, Homeland Security, Safety and Permits, and Property Management. Those are the main ones that I saw. So if you know anyone who's interested in a director level position, the city of New Orleans is looking for you. And so I would just love to see some natives in those positions. And so I just wanted to let you know what they were looking for so you can check it out. So bottom line, as New Orleans enters the 2026, it is facing serious financial challenges. And honestly, we do not know when we're going to get out of this. It is going to be a minute, 100% a minute. So I don't know what y'all thought was going to be happening these next years, but it is cleanse season and you already seeing it happen before we even get into 2026. So we're going to jump into our next segment, which is our Civics 101 segment. And I'm excited about it because this is out the book. And I know this is why y'all are here, because you wanted to learn something about New Orleans and you wanted to learn some politics or some information that you could use. And so there's so often where you may have an issue that's going on in your family or at work, or, you see something that's going on in the community and like, who do I talk to about this? Where do I go? Which elected officials? Because you have all of these representatives. You have your city council members. You have the mayor. You have your state reps. You have your state senators. Then you have your U.S. reps. And then you have your U.S. senators. You're like, well, who are all these people and what are they doing and who does what? So I'm going to give you the information with a little bit of breakdown between the federal, the state, and the local offices and what each one of the branches of government kind of does, so you can understand who to go to what. And so why does this matter? And I'm getting this straight out of the book. So if you have the book, it's on page 67, what I'm starting with, but the PDF version will be a little bit different. The numbers are a little bit different just due to editing. But why understanding these differences between federal, state, and local matter. So knowing what each level of government does helps you understand who to talk to when you have a question or want to make a change. For example, if you have a problem with a law in New Orleans, you'd speak to the mayor or city council. If the issue is something bigger affecting Louisiana, like education or state taxes, you'd speak to the governor or your state legislature representatives. And if the problem is national, like defense or constitutional rights, you'd contact the president or your representatives in Congress. So understanding how all three levels of government work is essential for becoming an informed and engaged citizen. So you got to know who does what so you know where to direct your questions. So let me give you an example. The breakdown of the federal government versus state versus local. So the federal government, according to USA.gov, so of course I always like to give you a link to where you can go get this information for yourself if you're looking for it. So you can get a breakdown of this on USA.gov. The federal government is responsible for handling matters that affect the entire country. It has three main parts: the president, Congress, and the Supreme Court. So I'll break each of these down into the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch, because you have to know who does what, because the importance of that is in New Orleans, the judicial branch is not under local government. Our judicial branch is under the state of Louisiana. And so you really need to know that, and that type of information. Like if you're in a court system, you need to know, who to call or who to respond to, or, you're always looking for somebody who's above them. Well, in New Orleans, they wouldn't be here. They'd be at the state level. So that's why it's important to know who does what. So the federal government is responsible for handling matters that affect the entire country. Again, like I said, it has three main parts: the president, Congress, and the Supreme Court. So the president, of course, is a leader of the entire country, serving as both the head of state and the head of government, running the day-to-day operations of the government. The key responsibilities of the president: enforces federal laws. The president makes sure that the laws passed by Congress are carried out. Commander-in-chief: the president is in charge of the military and decides how the country defends itself. Proposes legislation. The president suggests new laws to Congress, especially laws on issues like health, the economy, and national defense. And the president has veto power. The president can veto, which means reject laws passed by Congress if he disagrees, or he or her disagrees with them. And of course, foreign affairs. The president manages relationships with other countries, including making treaties and setting policies on international trade. So that's what their job is. So the Congress is made up of two parts. And so this is the legislative branch of the national level. Congress is made up of two parts: the Senate and the House of Representatives. And together they write and pass laws for the entire country. So their key responsibilities are: they make laws. Congress debates and votes on the new laws that affect the whole country. These laws can cover a wide range of issues like the economy, civil rights, and the environment. They approve the budget. So isn't this looking like the legislative branch of the country is also the same kind of legislative branch of the city? So I'm saying it so you can kind of see the similarities. So the Congress approves the budget. They decide how the government spends its money, including funding for education, healthcare, defense, and infrastructure. And they also check the president. And so I want to show you this, because how our Congress checks the president. Well, our legislative branch was supposed to be checking the mayor. Hint, hint. They check the president. If the president does something the lawmakers don't agree with, Congress can block actions, override a veto with enough votes. And also impeachment. If the president or other high officials break the law, Congress can impeach them and remove them from office. Now, that's a little different on the local level, because we would have to do a recall to remove someone from office. While impeachment is on the federal level, recalls are on the local level. And then the judicial branch for the national level is, of course, the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is the highest court in the country, and it interprets the laws of the United States of America. Their key responsibilities are: interprets laws. So when people or groups disagree about what a law means or how it should be applied, the Supreme Court decides what the law actually means. It checks on the president and Congress. If a law passed by Congress or an action taken by the president is unconstitutional, which means against the rules of the U.S. Constitution, the Supreme Court can strike it down. And they also review cases. So the Supreme Court hears cases that have the biggest impact on the country, like landmark civil rights decision or disputes between states. And so right now you see that they were taking up Louisiana, the redistricting, and how important that was. So that's why, things go to the Supreme Court if the state can't decide on it, or if people are like, no, we have another level and we can go to the Supreme Court. So now let's dwindle this down a little bit to something where it's a little bit more personal: state government. So the state government, again, has the same three pieces, right? The executive, the legislative, and the judicial branches. So the state government of Louisiana is responsible for handling state-specific issues, such as education, state law enforcement, and the state's economy. It has its own version of the governor, state legislature, and state courts. So let's start with the governor, which is the executive branch. The governor is the head of Louisiana's state government, similar to how the president is in charge of the federal government. The key responsibilities of the governor are: he enforces state laws. The governor makes sure the laws passed by the state legislature are followed. He proposes state laws. He suggests new laws or changes to existing ones that affect the state of Louisiana. He is responsible for the state budget. The governor works with the legislature to decide how state money should be spent. And he handles crisis management. The governor leads the state in times of disaster like hurricanes or floods. And then you have the state legislature, which is the legislative branch. So the Louisiana state legislature is made up of the Senate and the House of Representatives, just like Congress. The key responsibilities are they make laws, they write and pass laws that apply to the state of Louisiana, such as rules about driving, education, or healthcare. They also approve the state budget. So remember, the governor sets the state budget, but the legislature approves it, just like here in New Orleans on the local level. And the legislature approves how the state will spend its money and checks the governor. Excuse me, y'all. I need to take a sip of water. Something was going down wrong. Or maybe I was doing too much like right. So let's get back to the state legislature of the city of New Orleans, of the state. So their key responsibilities are they make laws, they write and pass laws that apply to the state of Louisiana, such as rules about driving, education, or healthcare. And they approve the state budget. The legislature approves how the state will spend its money. And it checks the governor. Now, how we're seeing how that trend works, right? So the legislature checks the executive branch. So they check the governor, and if the governor is doing something that the legislature doesn't agree with, they can override the governor's veto with enough votes. And then the judicial branch would be our state courts. So the state judicial system in Louisiana is made up of courts that handle cases involving state laws. Their key responsibilities: interpret state laws. Judges in Louisiana state courts decide cases that involve state laws, such as crimes, contracts, and family matters. They also have appeals. So the higher courts, like the Louisiana Supreme Court. So we have courts in New Orleans, we have appellate level courts, but then you have the Louisiana Supreme Court. Just like the United States has a Supreme Court, well, Louisiana has a Supreme Court as well. And they handles appeals, which are requests to review lower court decisions. And then last but not least, the one that everybody thinks is fun, the city of New Orleans, right? And so if you've been listening to this, so we have the same system, right? Executive, legislative, judicial. And I wanted you to hear it on those levels, so when you see it on New Orleans, it's like, aha. So New Orleans local government. The mayor is the executive branch. So the mayor is the leader of New Orleans, similar to how the governor leads the state and the president leads the country. The key responsibilities for the mayor of the city of New Orleans is enforce local laws. So the mayor ensures that the laws called ordinances that are passed by the city council are followed. The mayor also manages city services. So that means the mayor is in charge of services like garbage collection, police, fire departments, and street repairs. And guess what else? City budget. The mayor helps decide how New Orleans money will be spent on local services and programs. And so we see that playing out right now with our budget deficit in the city of New Orleans. And last but not least, public safety. The mayor works to ensure that the city is safe by supporting police, fire services, and emergency responses. So that is the executive branch of the city of New Orleans. Now, the legislative branch. Who's that? Our city council. It's made up of 7 members, and just like we know, we just had those elections. And so the city council is made up of elected officials who represent different districts in New Orleans. So we have 5 different districts, A, B, C, D, and E, and we have 2 at-large members. So it makes up a council of 7 members. So the city council is made up of elected officials who represent the districts of the city of New Orleans. And their key responsibilities are to make local laws, which is also called what? Ordinances. So the city council creates and passes laws for New Orleans, such as zoning, rules, or city taxes. And they also are over our utilities. Yeah, y'all remember that. They approve the city budget. So we see that happening right now. So the budget has to be approved by when, y'all? December 1st. Yes. So the city council approves how the mayor will spend the city money. And last but not least, they have oversight of the mayor. Have y'all seen the trend? So the Congress has oversight of the president. The state legislature has oversight over the governor. And so the city council has oversight over the mayor. This is important. Why? Because our current city council is saying they didn't know anything about this budget crisis. And well, that means you weren't doing your job because you weren't handling oversight, which is by law your job. And so this isn't something I'm making up. You can see how it's on every level, local, state, and federal. The legislative branch is responsible for oversight, y'all. Ding! The city council keeps an eye on the mayor's actions and ensures that they are following the city laws. And they have investigative power, which is very important. They can call any department to the table and say, hey, come tell me what you're doing. Let me know what's up. And make them give documents. So don't say what they can't do, because they can absolutely do it. And so last but not least, in the city of New Orleans, we have our judicial branch, which is our court system. So the city courts in New Orleans handle legal cases that deal with local laws, and their key responsibilities are handling local cases. So these courts decide cases involving local laws like traffic violations, minor crimes, or disputes between neighbors. Criminal and civil cases. They also handle criminal cases for violations of city laws such as theft or public disturbances. So that is what is a breakdown of each level of government. So yeah, so you can see the difference. And so I also have like a breakdown of the scope of responsibility for the federal, the state, and the local government from each section, like the president versus the government, the president versus the governor versus the mayor. So those would all be the executive branch. So the president is in charge of the United States of America, manages federal laws, federal budget, and federal emergencies. The governor is in charge of the state, manages state laws, state budget, and statewide emergencies. The mayor is in charge of the city, i.e. New Orleans, manages local services like police, fire, and city services, and helps create the city budget. The Congress versus the city council, right? So I'm saying Congress, and then you have the state legislature, and then the city council. So those are your three legislative branches. The Congress, or the legislative branches, makes laws for their area. So the Congress makes laws for the entire country, whereas the state legislature makes laws for the state. And the city council makes laws, or i.e. ordinances, for New Orleans, and helps decide how the city's money is spent. And remember, they have oversight, so that's really important right now, because they were supposed to be doing that, but they weren't. So last but not least, the judicial branch is the Supreme Court versus the city courts. So the Supreme Court interprets federal laws and can strike down laws that violate the U.S. Constitution. And then the Louisiana courts interpret the state laws and can strike down laws that violate the state constitution. And then, of course, the city courts. They handle cases that involve local laws in New Orleans, such as traffic tickets, minor criminal offenses, and, major crimes. So those are like the different branches of government on the federal, state, and local levels. So you can see the difference. And when you know who does what, you know who to direct your question to. And let me give you an example of that. Say you have a family member who, needs help with their Social Security. Well, you would not call the city council for Social Security. Your Social Security is on a federal level. So you would even call your state official for Social Security. You would call your federal rep. Who our federal rep? Well, in last week's show, we talked about who was, what congressional district the city of New Orleans is in, and that is the 2nd congressional district in the state of Louisiana. And our representative is Troy Carter. So if your family member was having issues with their Social Security, they would go to their federal representative, which is Troy Carter's office. So you would not do anything local. You would not do anything state. You would go there. So you do understand why you need to know who does what. So it'll save yourself a lot of time if you know who to direct your information to. So that's why understanding those things are so important. So that is a wrap for Civics 101. And of course, again, you can get the book. You can buy it off of Amazon, or you can get it from me, or you can make a donation to do a giveaway. And so we have all of those available if you want to meet us at some of our meetups. I've had meetups where I'll go to a coffee shop and I'll meet people at different hours, and we'll chat it up about New Orleans politics, or if you want to speak spiritually and prophetically, I'm here for that too. Or I'm also going to be starting some group meetups as well, and so join us for that. So if you want to get the book and have it in hand, so when we do it, it is $15. If you want to make a donation, you can do that as well, and that is Faith in Politics on Cash App, Faith in Politics. And so that's where we're doing the meetups and how we're doing that. Because a lot of people just wanted to buy it straight from here. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, let's do that. So you can send me the money there, the donations there, and we can do some sponsorships for, anyone else. Like I said, if you do not have the funds and we still want to give the information away, so the PDF is free, and the link on my IG, you can go in the bio and the websites right there. You hit the button and it'll download it for free. You can share it with all your family members. I don't care how many people give it away. We just want to make sure that you have the information in your hands, because we can be a stronger New Orleans when we know the rules of the game, because they know the rules. And so if we don't know the rules and they're playing by a whole different set of rules, then we need to be able to say, it doesn't work like that. Like, if we were just listening to the news media, we would have thought that the city council was doing everything that they were supposed to be doing, and that, they just, oh my gosh, this budget deficit, how could we have known this? The mayor just kept us in the dark all this time. Well, the CFO has been giving you monthly reports. So were you not reading the reports, or what was going down? What was really going down? I think, a lot of them were wrapped up in their own elections, and I don't know. They just wanted to take the word of the CAO and not the CFO. And if you didn't understand, the CAO is the Chief Administrative Officer, and he is over the CFO, which is your Chief Financial Officer. So the Chief Financial Officer has been sounding the alarm, and talk about Clarion call, because that's the name of episode 36 that we're having today. Clarion call. So she was making a Clarion call saying, hey, y'all, this is not working. And so it wasn't working. She told the mayor, a lot of us found out about this during the time when the city council was trying to make the deal with the school board and give them the $20 million. The mayor was like, pump the brakes. We don't have that money. And we were all like, what is going on? Give the kids their money. Give the kids their money. Me too. Give the kids their money. And we didn't know that they really could not give the kids their money, because we can't even keep some lights on or pay ourselves, for this year, due to a lot of just bad budgeting. And they've been doing it for years, and it just caught up with them. So it wasn't just like a one-time thing. This was happening over years. So it's one thing for you maybe not to know for a year, but this was multiple years. So what have you been doing, Budget Committee? What are you going to be doing? And do you think the Budget Committee members are really going to say that they did something wrong? Well, guess what? Joe Geruso was the budget chair. Helena Moreno and JP Morrell are all on the budget committee. Now, there are more members, but the three of them are all on the budget committee, and those are the faces that you see everywhere. So do you think that they're going to say, I did something wrong? No, none of them have taken accountability and said, I did something wrong. They're 100% only pointing their finger at the mayor. Now, could the mayor have made her clarion call louder? 100%. She absolutely could. But she did tell them that hey, Houston, we have a problem, or New Orleans, we have a problem. She did say that. And so it is what it is. You even had the state AG, which is the Attorney General, say, no, the mayor told you in January 2025 that you were going to have a problem, and none of you took it seriously. So we are where we are because they had terrible communication and just relationships within each other. I know our elected officials, a lot of our high-level elected officials, y'all think that they worked well together. They have not had meetings in years. Like our current mayor and our mayor-elect had not had meetings in years. It is literally that bad. So don't let them give you the okie doke. That's why we need to read our information, know what's going on, and really be able to say, no, you need context to that, because that is not the truth. So we have two more pieces before we hop off today, and I want to answer the resident question because it was a great question. He asked about gun rights for felons, for anyone who had, had an issue in their life and they have come out, they served their time. What does that look like? So I actually put up a post about it for everyone so they can really go back and, if they have someone in their family, or if they are in this situation themselves, they can see what the process is. I do want to let you know it is not an easy process, but it is what it is. And knowing you rather have the information so you can abide by the rules than get yourself in trouble, because we don't want anybody to get in any more trouble. If you have, walk through that process and you're on the other side, we need you out here. We need you voting. We need your voice. We need you in our community. And number one, your family needs you. And so we want to make sure that everybody is safe. So the question was, can you own a gun after Louisiana felony? So the answer was, bottom line, even though Louisiana law allows most felons to possess a firearm after 10 years, have passed from the completion of sentence, under federal law, a Louisiana felony conviction will forever bar the felon from owning or possessing a firearm or ammunition unless the applicant receives an expungement and 10 years have passed since the completion of sentence. So you need both parts of those. And let me be clear, you cannot have like any sexual crimes or violent crimes with this. Like, that's not even on the menu. So if that is a situation, it's totally not happening. So recently in 2016, changes in Louisiana law were designed to make an expungement cure this federal disability. But it remains unclear at this time how the federal authorities will interpret these changes. So, as a result, even someone with a past felony is permitted to possess a firearm under Louisiana state law. He's exposed to prosecution under a separate federal law if he or she has a firearm or attempts to purchase one. That's important. You got to know all the rules because they will try to get you on anything if they can. So, unless they have an expungement and the ATF has found no disability after background check, which is unlikely. There is a little weaselly loophole through the ATF, but they're not even really doing the option. So, I mean, I'm telling you it exists, but they're not doing it. So don't try that one. I'm going to break it down a little bit more. So the only reliable path for full restoration of federal gun rights in Louisiana is a governor's pardon, which fully restores all rights, treats the person as if it never convicted and it's recognized by federal authorities. So there is a way. This is not the same as an automatic first offender pardon, which does not restore gun rights. So it's different. So even though Louisiana law allows most felons to possess a firearm 10 years after completing their sentence, federal law is stricter. A Louisiana felony usually bars you from owning or possessing a firearm unless these options are limited, though. 10 years since sentence completion, a non-violent, non-sexual conviction, and expungement. So even then, the federal approval is not guaranteed. So the path to federal gun rights restoration is restoration of your civil rights. And Louisiana does not explicitly restore gun rights after a felony. So what you can do is pursue an expungement if eligible. You can also apply for a governor's pardon, and you can also consult an attorney experienced in firearm rights restoration. So I got all of this information. I did a lot of digging for y'all. I got all this information from Louisiana Expungement Assistance and Advocacy Center. That is the Louisiana Assistance and Advocacy Center. And so you can go on their website and get this information at LEEAC.com. That is LEEAC.com. Their phone number is 318-308-7667. That is 318-308-7667. And if I went too fast for you, guess what? It's okay, because I have a post for that. So I posted it maybe an hour or so before we got on air because I wanted to make sure you had the information if you were a family member in this situation, and you can follow it and get like real-time information. And I wanted to give a shout out to Real Agent Mike Hughes on IG, because right before we went on air, y'all, he said he would notarize expungement paper for free for anyone who needed it. So shout out to him. I'm going to get with him to find out what his information is so we can share it here. But I want you to know that a Real Agent Mike Hughes, shout out to him, is going to be offering his services to help residents in the city of New Orleans. So if anybody needs their expungement paperwork, their expungement paperwork notarized, he will do it for free. So shout out to him. I'm going to get the information. But look what happens when New Orleanians work together. We can, make the difference for somebody and their family. So last but not least is New Orleans trivia. I have this last thing for you before we get off. And, this is always fun. And I didn't really kind of make it a question this time, which is, I don't know why I didn't. I guess I don't know. But so for a long time, New Orleans didn't have any gambling or anything like that. Or so we thought, growing up in New Orleans, there wasn't any gambling. when I was growing up, when they decided to have the casino, or actually it started with the riverboats, to my knowledge, because I'm 47. So when they had the riverboats and things like that, people they had riverboats with casinos. Yeah, y'all, they did. So anyway, they did. But they had those, and then they had the land-based casino. And it was a big deal to get it in New Orleans. And they were like, all this hoop-de-doo. And so I was like, what's all this stuff for gambling? But would you know, New Orleans trivia, let me pull it up because I cannot mess this up, because you would not believe that New Orleans is where craps and poker originated. So we have been full of gambling for many years. We were actually created it. And so now we know why we got all this craziness going in New Orleans. That's a whole other spiritual conversation I didn't even know about. I said, okay, that's something else for me to pray against, because that's really an addiction that faced a lot of people. It was in my family. My sister had it. And so, I am not one who gambles. I really detest it and hate it. And so to find this out about New Orleans, I was like, ew. But it was, one of those kind of history things I wanted to share, because when you know better, you do better. And it's a little piece to know, what has happened in our region that we didn't even know about. So New Orleans is the birthplace of poker and craps. The first game of poker was played in the city in the 19th century using a 20-card pack. Poker's French predecessor, poker, dates back to the 17th century when French colonists brought the game to New Orleans. English-speaking settlers changed the name to poker and developed the modern game that we know today. So poker was developed in the city of New Orleans. Who knew? I didn't, but the more you know about New Orleans and craps. I'm like, maybe that's what, no, I'm gonna make a funny joke. It's not so funny, but maybe that's why our budget's so crappy. But anyway, craps also has its origins in New Orleans, likely introduced by Bernard de Marigny. Isn't that crazy? Bernard de Marigny was the person who likely introduced the origin of craps. The name craps likely derives from the French word crapaud, meaning frog. And it was referring to the way players would crouch down when they shot dice. So that is how craps got started. So yes, New Orleans is considered the birthplace of both poker and craps. So the more you know, New Orleans trivia was more about, did you know this about New Orleans? Because I did not know. So now you know. So when you go to work or your friends, your family be like, did you know that New Orleans was a birthplace of poker and craps? We are known as the birthplace of jazz and rock. Actually, did y'all know that? Maybe that'll be on the next one, but nah, I told you. New Orleans is actually the birthplace of rock and roll, but we are also the birthplace of poker and craps. So the more you know. And there's actually something else that they said we were the birthplace of, some type of gangsters or mobs. And so I wanted to look that up too. Maybe I'll do a post about that, just New Orleans things like a did you know. So maybe I'll make that for y'all, but New Orleans trivia was more of a did you know today. New Orleans is the birthplace of craps and poker. Say it ain't so, New Orleans. Say it ain't so. And so I really kind of wanted to give that information because it's one of those things about your history and your family. We only know what is going on when we were around, like our generation or maybe our parents' information that gave us that information. But do you really know what went down in your grandfather or your grandmother's generations or your great-grandparents or your great-great-grandparents? We don't know. So we don't know what things went on and what cycles happened in the family. And so I want to challenge each one of you, like as we get off, to really go take a step back and look at what has gone on in your family. If you see any reoccurrences, like I'll just give you an example with mine that is clearly not a coincidence. There's 3 girls in my families and the 3 of us have all been divorced. Ain't no way on God's green earth. Generational, like these things are real. So what's happening in your family? Do you have a history of cancer? People like, oh, we just have a history of cancer in the family, or we just have a history of blood pressure. Well, these are things that can be affecting you, and we need to be sharing this information so that we can really, pray on them and take care of them spiritually as well as physically, because it is a double-sided process. And when you take care of both of them, that's when you really begin to see healing. So let's step back. A lot of times it's things that we don't want to talk about. And so this goes back to what we started with in the conversation earlier about what the Lord was kind of bringing to our knowledge right now. The Lord is bringing his families back into order. So there's a lot of family secrets that are going to be coming out. Whether we like it or not, we do not have an opinion about it. or an opinion as to how it happens, the Lord's like, it's time. You've had predators in the family. You've had, maybe incest in the family. You've had different deaths or what people have died from, and you don't tell other people, and then it pops up in like a grandchild, and you're like, well, if you would have told me that they had this disease in the family, then we could have been, not eating this or doing this or that, whatever the case may be. But I really want you to start looking and delve into your family and see, what are the reoccurring cycles, and start praying against it if it's something negative, because they can have family curses. It's a very real thing. But on the opposite side of that, you can flip it around and start having family blessings. Some people are just lucky. Like my dad was one of those people. Everywhere we went, he always won. How do you do that? Like, what is the deal? But he had a certain favor on his life, and so it has passed down. People are like, Eileen, how do you? I don't know. It's the favor of the Lord, so I'll take that. So generational curses are a thing, but generational blessings are a thing. So I encourage each and every one of you to check in your family and see what maybe you need to pray for or against to make sure your family can see breakthrough through you. Maybe you're seeing this right now because you are that black sheep, you are that person, you are the, how you hear it, the generational curse breakers. Well, it's a very real thing. And so now is the time, such a time as this. We want to break those things from the past so we can move forward, because if there's a door open, it stays open until you close it. And so maybe you're the one, I'm calling you to be the one to shut the door to the sin, or to open the door to brand new blessings for your family. So with that, thank you so much. This is Faith in Politics with me, Eileen. I do want to remind you that there is the challenge, the spiritual takeover. We want to take back our block. Come walk with me. You've seen me do a couple videos on that, and you will see me be walking all over New Orleans. It is because everywhere our soul treads, we establish it for the Lord. And so we've had so much death and crime in New Orleans. Well, how do we take that back, and how do we fight that? We fight that with our authority, and we're going to stand in that. And so I've seen it in my own neighborhood. I gave the example of, we had a lot of car break-ins, and I was praying about it. I was like, what is this? Because this is just not normal. And God's like, take your authority, walk your block. And so I started doing that, and we have not had another car break-in since. And so I told my neighbor I did it, and she was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, God works. He says it. We win. And so if we don't stand in our authority, we'll never know. So I'm just letting you know that's the authority that you have as Christians. And so when we walk the walk, we'll be in the talk because the Lord is going to back us up. So I challenge you to take back the block, and we are going to have a spiritual takeover of the city of New Orleans, and I challenge you to walk with me. So I will be growing that. I am partnering with some groups right now. I'm really excited about it because I did not know where this was going to lead, and I just think it's been really embraced by a lot of people. So I'm really excited because, whether you're just taking back, not just whether you're, because that's a lot, whether you're just taking your block, or, we do meetups and we take, a 10 block area, or where I'm looking forward to doing maybe like block parties as well, where we have like large groups of people who come out and pray for the city of New Orleans, because prayer really does change things. And so when the remnant rises up, we can be a stronger New Orleans. And during these times, we really need it, especially with the cleanse going on in the city of New Orleans. So with that being the case, I want to let you know, of course, you can always buy the book on Amazon. You can also buy the book from me, Faith in Politics. It's $15, or you can do a donation if you want to do a giveaway. And you can send it to Cash App at Faith in Politics. The little $, it's Faith in Politics. You'll see the little purple book right there. That's me. Send your donation, and I will call you when we have a meetup, and we can meet one-on-one. We can chat about New Orleans politics, or, your spiritual walk. And either way, I'm here for you, and we can move it forward. And of course, last but not least, if you ever miss an episode, you can catch me on Apple. You can catch me on, let me get all of them. Apple, YouTube, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Music, Podbean, Player FM, Listen Notes, Podchaser, and Boomplay. And so that is faithinpoliticstoday.podbean.com, faithinpoliticstoday.podbean.com. Thank you so much, y'all, and I am out.